All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, you can go ahead and put me in the category of people that were not surprised that the possible merger between the Big 12 and Pac 12 conferences will not be happening. Now, according to ESPN.com, a Big 12 source stated that the potential deal between the two conferences would not have driven that much more revenue for the quote unquote expanded league. Now, the media rights for both of these conferences are set to expire at different times. And that is the elephant in the room because with the Pac 12 trying to negotiate a new TV deal, they're going to see what they can get. And obviously, at a different time for the Big 12, they're going to see what they can get. But at the end of the day, to me, part of the reason why this did not happen is I feel that there are too many egos in the room. Obviously, the folks representing the Big 12 want things their way and they see it as such. And the same can be said about the Pac 12 conference with what they are seeking to do. Right now, as conferences go, the Big 12 has better footing under them than the Pac 12 does. And a lot of that, of course, was due to the surprise departure a few weeks ago of both USC and UCLA in favor of the Big Ten Conference. And of course, in doing so, the heart of the Pac 12 was ripped out as they lost the coveted Los Angeles market. Now, at the end of the day, another reason why I am not surprised by this is simply hey, to me, the Big 12 as a conference is just laying in the weeds, seeing what they can get as far as poaching schools from the Pac 12 to just simply join the Big 12. We've seen it in the past. You go back about a decade ago or so when, the Big East thought that they were still going to be around and be a player on the football scene. And before you know it, Syracuse and Pitt decided to go to the ACC. And then after that, it was just a mass exodus, and the rest is history. We saw this about a decade ago as well when, it looked like the Big 12 was done when out of nowhere, Colorado decided to go to the Pac 12. Then you had Nebraska decide to go to the Big 10. And then right after that, Texas A&M and Missouri decided to go to the SEC. So, a lot of people felt that the Big 12 was going to be done, and they found a way to survive. First, they got West Virginia and TCU. Now, of course, they're losing Texas and Oklahoma. And now they're hopeful to stay afloat with the likes of UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, and of course, Houston. So let's see what happens with them going forward. But nonetheless, I think right now the Big 12 is just sitting back and just saying, hey, you know what? Let's see if the Pac 12 can simply bury themselves. And then we will have our quote unquote pick of the litter as far as who we're going to allow in our conference and who we're going to do business with. Because if that were the case, just for the sake of argument, I guarantee you would have a lot of proactive athletic directors and school presidents looking to latch on and see where their next payday is going to come from conference wise. The Big 12 knows that, and obviously they would love to exploit that. Now, regardless, the Pac 12 is still going to try to get another TV deal. I think they're going to go down guns blazing. And I say go down. I don't think that they're necessarily done, but they're going to do everything in their power to try to right this ship, stay afloat, patch the holes that they have in their vessel, and try to keep afloat. Easier said than done, but we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, this next television deal that the Pac 12 is looking to get is going to be a make or break scenario for the remaining schools that could be eyeing a potential payday from the Big 12. I say that because let's face it, and I said this when it happened originally, the Pac 12 is not going to get the money, obviously, that they were going to get with USC and UCLA still on board. We know that. But they still have to try to go out there and see if they can be viable. I know the Pac 12 wants to potentially expand, but at this point, there just are not that too many viable options, or like, let me not say viable, more like, big time options that would be enticing enough to keep this conference as a national power. What are you going to do? Are you really going to get Michigan to leave the Big Ten to go to the Pac-12? I don't think so. Are you going to get an LSU to leave the SEC to go to the Pac-12? I don't think so. So at this point, it's just, trying to protect what you have on the West Coast or what you have left on the West Coast and try to see if you can add some teams. But just for the sake of argument, if the Pac 12 were to go out there and get a school like Boise from the Mountain West or Fresno State from the Mountain West or San Diego State from the Mountain West, obviously they are not even close to filling the void tradition wise of what you had from USC and UCLA, and they definitely aren't going to bring the money wise either. So would that, make the remaining members happy? I doubt it. But at this point, you look at the Big 12, you look at the ACC, and you look at the Pac 12. They're all in survival mode. As I've said before, and I will continue to say, the Big 10 and the SEC are simply head and shoulders above the rest. They are the heavyweights. Everybody else are their middleweights. I'm not even going to call them cruiserweights right now. And, it's a dog eat world. And it's basically the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac 12 fighting for survival. And every several years in college football, we see a historic conference die off. And it goes back to the 90s. We saw the Southwest Conference die off. And of course, the Big Eight took four of the teams from the Southwest Conference and they became the Big 12. And in doing so, the schools who were not Texas and who were not Texas A&M, those places, they were kind of pushed to the side. So the Houstons of the world, the TCUs of the world, the Rices of the world, they were really, left out of the party. And you saw how it affected those programs for so long. It's taken Houston some time to get back to this level. It took TCU some time to get back to this level. And Rice has never been anything close to any success that they ever had in the old Southwest Conference. You think about the Big East Conference from a football standpoint and how it died off. And of course, the majority of its members are now in the ACC. So with that said, every time that these TV deals are going to come up, and due to the point that there's nobody really regulating things, it's like the Wild West. So with that said, one of these conferences is going to die off. It's just a matter of who it's going to be. Everybody's money's on the Pac-12 right now. We'll have to wait and see. And then from the point of this merger, the Big 12 has a new commissioner in Brett Yormark, and he's a TV and entertainment guy, and he's going to come in there and see what he can do, which is best for his conference. So he's going to try to see what he can get from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 has a new commissioner in George Kliavkoff, and it's a situation. Obviously, he has to try to clean up the mess that he inherited from former Pac-12 commissioner Larry Scott, and a lot of things that Larry Scott did are one of the big reasons why the Pac-12 has the mess and they're in the predicament that they currently are in. So the bottom line is both sides walked away from the table. I'm not surprised by that. Too many egos in the room, but sooner rather than later, it would not surprise me to see at least two of these Pac-12 schools sit down and talk turkey with the Big 12. And it would not surprise me at some point during this football season that, you're hearing more Pac-12 schools deciding to move east. Obviously, not for a Big 10, but for a Big 12. So it's the unfortunate dynamic of the world of college athletics that we live in. Tradition was gone a long time ago, and we know that. Let's just not dance around the floor with it. So it's just a matter of time before everything comes full circle with this, and let's see which will be the next conference to fall by the wayside. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. Say take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.